Sorry about that. That was a phone call. Um, yeah, I was talking about Fiona Apple and stuff, and she went through trauma herself. She was assaulted, you know, um, and which made her develop an eating disorder. And through that trauma, it tended to have a bunch of trauma responses towards things and people, or whenever she had relationships with people. And that's ultimately kind of the whole karmic twin flame relationship. And the push and pull dynamic, and it's a bunch of people who, and that's what adults and people that grown up in this life, as adults, like we all go through a certain amount of trauma, and some more than others. And and it's like and it's about kind of learning what those are specifically for us as an individual, how it affects us, and ultimately how it affects how we respond to things, and ultimately how it affects the people around us. Um, yeah, so that's the number two for the push and pull dynamic. I don't know. It's just something that I was thinking of as in downloads, and I wanted to read the cards that I put out. And I read it after I had that phone call, and it's the push and pull dynamic. It's insane. It's like first card out was a good news and a good offer. Then you have a spiritual narcissist. Then you have envy and jealousy. I want what you have. But then you would have like these jealousy like responses, like fears of abandonment start coming up after you have the good news and good offer. Then your jealousy responses come up. And then, then you become like super judgmental about picking out other people, the other person's flaws, because unconsciously they're too dangerous to get close. And so, you have to find flaws within it to protect yourself as a reason that they're too close, you know? And then it's like, then issues start coming up, after the jealousy and envy starts coming up. But it's really jealousy. Then it's hypercritical, becomes hypercritical, hypercritical, overjudgmental. Then issues like accusations, like outbursts, and then you would have it's medical, not spiritual, mental illness and depression. Then this starts coming up on top of the ruminating, the anxiety, and on top of the anxiety, the burnout, and then a total like disconnect. It's like I can't deal with it, it's too much. And then the depression, and and then after the cards comes up, technologist or engineer. um I guess figuring out how things work, putting things back together after things fell apart. Or maybe you could have been dealing with somebody, or you could have been a technologist or engineer, somebody with a lot of Mars energy. There's travel and relocation, a person backfiring spell, somebody was manifesting something or making things work, making movements, putting manifestations, but then backfiring spells, somebody was manifesting the other, or the both was manifesting the other, like you were psychically calling the other back in, and then it becomes a wrong turn and a faulty plan or being misled. And then it's like, oh, it's spiritual, not medical, you're not crazy. Then the whole thing of the cyclic wheel is to make us aware of what it is within us in order to fully see it and heal from it. Because everything is healable. Like, we can heal from it. We can heal from trauma responses, but we first have to see it. Like Carl Jung, he would say, it's not like those who look on the outside, they dream, but those who looks within awakens. It is. And It's not about hating our dark side, you know? Like, he would also have this whole talk about the dark side, you know? And it's like, it's not meant to be hated. And it's like, if you have that dark side within us, we tend to project that dark side into being overly judgmental on the people outside of us. And people who have this dark side but doesn't see it usually has the most judgments about the other people on the outside. But if you're able to see it, you have a chance to heal from it, you know? And that's where the spiritual aspect comes in. And then you have the spiritual aspect of the karmic relationship, the runner and the chaser. It starts calling you back to play this game in order to be like, look at it, you know, look at it. There's something, someone is looking for you. Stop procrastinating, because it's like the universe is calling you back. It's like you still have things to learn when you still have those longings or feelings of like, you know, it's usually because there's a message or there's a lesson we still haven't learned yet that universe is being like, look at it. Stop procrastinating. Someone's looking for you. There's a neighbor's or acquaintance, how it projects on the outside or people around you. Maybe somebody is around you or close to you. Somebody that has South American or indigenous descent. It's a spiritual warfare. You know, it really is. Whenever we face our karma, when it comes to other people, it becomes a spiritual warfare. And when it comes to that spiritual warfare, it's the dark and light sides within ourselves, you know, because usually it's the darkness that's in us that projects it on the people around us. And we could call everybody around us narcissists all we want, but that's not exactly us learning the lesson, and it's not exactly giving us a chance to find what it is that is unhealed within us in order to, you know, ultimately heal it. And to, you know, but we first have to become aware of it. If you look up the whole Carl Jung's, like how he describes the shadow, or even how in science, when you look up what a shadow is and how it's described, is ultimately, it's really enlightening. But, you know, ultimately, any good connection, a trustworthy friend, family member, or person comes in, they get too close to us, and it doesn't only happen in romantic relationships. It also happens in family situations. It also happens with, you know, like your doctors, with your friends, with people you work with. Like it affects us, you know? And if you're on this spiritual path, it's usually an indicator that we have gone through some darkness and trauma, which ultimately makes us seek it. If you had a lollipop rainbow life, you're not going to seek out the dark side. You're not going to seek out the divine. It's usually that trigger that makes us go through that dark night and ultimately that awakening. Because once a good connection comes in, you start to disassociate, and your trauma responses, disassociation and trauma, soul fragmentations, and astral projection, where you disassociate out of yourself, your trauma responses come up. Maybe you could be of Asian descent, or, you know, maybe the person you were dealing with, or, you know, then it becomes not the right time and bad timing. Extraterrestrial connections, that is like more in an ethereal plane, you know, when it comes to angels, the divine, you know, like the planets and how they affect us, you know, and then it's due to past events. So it's really interesting how, you know, when you go down through this spiritual path, you know, how it gives us a chance to be able to really heal from kind of this unconscious kind of triggers, and, you know, like responses that we have to other people. What's on the bottom of the deck? Asexual or celibate, and then the ultimate self-isolation. Hunger hurts, but starving works. When these, it's like, it's very fascinating. It really is. And, if you take the time to look up the lyrics of Paper Bag by Fiona, and it's pretty much what the push and pull dynamic is. It's just something that I've been thinking about, and it's an awakening and an enlightening that I had pictured in my own life, and why it is that people who have went through such trauma would have these push and pull dynamics, and they have trouble expressing themselves, because ultimately they have a fear that when they express themselves, they'll be rejected and abandoned. So we kind of, because we have that fear that overtakes it, we ultimately induce it to happen, or actually, it's like we create that fear by these unconscious, behaviors. But anyways, I don't know if anyone is interested, but it was just something that I'm looking about, a little bit of a download that I had, and a little bit of inward inflection. And yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening. I love you lots, and I will talk to you later. Smash that like button if it resonated. Alrighty, bye.